Do you favor one statewide school district?
I do not favor a statewide school district. What I think I could support is a statewide contract. School is very much a local concern. I walked to my elementary school. I didn't travel far to my junior high school. I really believe in local schools, therefore I believe in local school control. But there's just way too much time wasted on all of these different contracts. If we could get local people to discuss and focus on education rather than finances, and perhaps allow some of those financial decisions to be centralized, I'd be in favor of that.
A follow-up to that would be, do you favor consolidated school districts? And if so, how many should there be?
It's a similar question. I know there have been ideas of making 3 districts. I see it sort of as moot. Because I think schools need to really be locally controlled, I tend to be against consolidation. But if we can consolidate logistical things like transportation issues and contractual issues and streamline in issues that aren't related to particular educational questions, then I'd be in favor of that. But I am in favor of keeping things the way they are. I would not push for school regionalization.
How would you lessen the reliance on property taxes to fund education?
You know, you can see these are really, it's all about money, and we have a morass in a financial situation today. There's no money out there, and everyone's scrambling for it. And here in Providence, property tax rates are, I think, felonious. I mean, they're unacceptably high, and it is a massive problem. And to think that if we were to take money out of the property taxes, we would be taking, in essence, money out of the school system is really egregious to me. Without the notion of taxing without cutting spending, because I feel that cutting spending across the board is one of the fundamental issues of my candidacy. However, I am not opposed to the idea of having somewhat of perhaps a sales tax that is demonstrably more democratic. People would say it's regressive, but everyone has to contribute to our tax base.
Okay. Would you, if elected, introduce or support legislation limiting the scope of collective bargaining to salaries, benefits, and conditions of work?
Like I said, really, I think we need to rethink this whole thing. I think the collective bargaining, an entire premise of this entire interview has been, basically pro-union, like being for teachers' unions. Without teachers' unions, we wouldn't need collective bargaining. We could have school committees hiring on an individual basis, and there would be no need to deal with collective bargaining. I'm not saying I'm right to work, but I am saying that the fundamental issue in the state is there is a big rift between public employment or quasi-public employment, and I would consider teachers' unions being within that purview. And it's unrealistic. Some of the compensation packages are within the context of our financial situation are unrealistic. And unless the unions can, come up with the agreements with the town committees within the ability for towns to pay without undue deficits or without any deficits, then, it's the union's game to lose right now. But if they can't solve these problems, I don't even know if I would support the concept of the union, because right now there's such serious trouble that unless people get realistic, I can't say I would support the unions at any expense, if you will.
Okay. If elected, would you make any changes to the Board of Regents for elementary and secondary education? And would you appoint a current school committee member to the board?
I don't think I'd make any changes. I don't think the Board of Regents is necessarily horribly effective. I know that once again, it's difficult to answer in a couple questions, but I believe teaching happens everywhere and everywhere. It's a omnipresent phenomenon, and what's been taught by the current Board of Regents is that we're seeking to become much more dependent on federal funding, and I don't think that's a good lesson. So the Board of Regents direction towards becoming, dependent on federal funds is, in my opinion, a really bad idea. And I would need to educate myself a little bit more on exactly what the Board of Regents is all about to advise any changes.
What roles do you see school committees playing in your plan for education in Rhode Island?
I'd love to see him talk about students rather than teachers. It seems like every time you hear something about school committees, it's about the teachers and the teachers' salaries or the teachers' benefits, and it's really all, mostly about money. I would love to see the conversation return to the students about, for instance, what the accomplishments are and how to get our accomplishments and standards of performance as high as possible.
Who is your principal education advisor?
Carol Lukowski.
Okay. And how can people get more information about your education positions?
They could call my cell phone, 401-241-8241, or they could go to my website at Lusi for Governor. And I'm a student. I am more than willing to learn. I don't know everything, but I do know that whether it's education or whether it's housing or whatever aspect of society right now, the money aspect it's all deficient. No one has enough money to do anything. So education is in the same boat, and this state needs to face the financial issues realistically, in-house. That's my position.
Okay. And do you want to make any closing comments?
I'd love to. I would just like to thank you for coming here and interviewing me. It's very important to me. I think that we face unprecedented times. I think historically we're gonna see that we either make the decision as a state to take care of our own business, and I will be very upfront and say that there's a good chance that the very people interviewing me, the interest, if you will, what I'm learning in politics is everyone has their interest, and it's in the interest of the unions to get as much as they can in the best conditions. There comes a time where the state has to weigh that out against countervailing interests. I think those countervailing interests are becoming stronger and stronger, and the unions need to sit down realistically and not only make concessions. We need to rethink this whole thing if we're going to survive and prosper as a state.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.